Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's the Point, a podcast dedicated to interviewing cloud and IT infrastructure experts about what's going on in the industry, while also getting to the point of some of those biggest trends. I'm your host, Matt Pacheco from TierPoint. Today's guest is Brian Bowman, Lead Channel Solution Architect at MegaPort. We're talking about hybrid cloud connectivity today, specifically some of the latest trends and challenges and some of the ways businesses are overcoming those. Brian, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Good to be chatting with you.
We're very excited to speak with you. So, Brian, according to Flexera, 80% of organizations have adopted a hybrid cloud solution, some with a carefully crafted strategy, but many without. For businesses without one, it may create some challenges. What are some of the challenges you're seeing on your end as far as your conversations with customers and the things they're experiencing?
Yeah, great question. So, if I can, I probably speak to hundreds of customers, and what if I can kind of like categorize this into three specific areas, it would be performance as one, agility, and cost. And so, what customers are experiencing as far as challenges as it relates to performance is that they don't always take into account all the network elements required that go into a successful hybrid cloud solution, right? And so what our customers are wanting to do is not only be able to get that connectivity, but also the scale needed to meet the performance objectives of ultimately their applications and to their users that they were expecting out of the overall network and cloud infrastructure. And then, secondly, with agility, this is one of the big reasons why organizations will go to a hybrid solution is so that they get the agility, right? So, gone are the days of the simple data center with the, nice walled garden around it where you can have your security there and all that. And you just didn't have the agility there. And so using a hybrid cloud scenario where you get the benefit of private cloud, but also the agility of public cloud in one solution is great. But the network didn't always keep up with that. And so, you sold it to the business as this great agile solution, but the network really wasn't there and ready to go as quick as the solution was. And the third challenge with cost is, again, this was a benefit of hybrid cloud was the cost, right? There's, I'm going to take advantage of the best solutions at the best price by being able to shop around. And what we're seeing is, yes, that is truly a benefit, but there's unpredictable cost associated with the network, especially that can be escalating over time. So when you first budget it out, you maybe didn't know about the measured rates or the scaling rates and those kinds of things that can take place over time. So those are really the three areas that I'm seeing as challenges.
Based on some of those challenges you're seeing, are you also seeing certain trends being driven by like businesses trying to find ways to solve those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So just kind of as network trends, big talk right now is SASE type solutions. So one of the, if you think about performance as being one of those challenges, historically we would look at hairpinning traffic through, like a security stack at a central location. Well, to address some of these performance woes, organizations are looking at SASE type solutions where you can centralize policy but decentralize traffic pattern, right? So we can localize traffic flow, but centralize the policy of the organization. So that's one. The other one that I'm seeing is, from an industry as a whole is SD-WAN adoption. Everybody's either doing it or looking to do an SD-WAN type solution. And a lot of this was to address the agility, right? So when you look at SD-WAN, you get to take advantage of some of the benefits of internet, like the cost and the scale, but also be able to address the performance at the same time. And so we see organizations moving away from MPLS or augmenting their MPLS to include an SD-WAN overlay. So we see that in the industry. We also see, which, kind of the other end, you look at the branch and the SD-WAN adoption there. From a cloud perspective, when we're talking about hybrid cloud, what's kind of interesting is most organizations we work with start with internet for connectivity purposes. But when they're looking at a fully deploy that hybrid solution in a production environment, a lot of them are moving away from internet, moving away from those IPsec tunnels into a private connectivity model to address the performance need or the security need, or even to reduce the cost of the solution by avoiding those high egress costs associated with internet. So those are kind of some of the major trends we're seeing.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot a lot's going on with some of those trends that customers are trying to approach. What are ways, so we're providers talking here between us.
Yeah.
What are ways providers like your organization are kind of approaching these trends, and are there any like specific solutions created to approach some of these challenges and trends that we're seeing out there with customers?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. And what's kind of interesting, Megaport is a network provider, and the reality is network providers have had solutions to address performance for years and years and years, right? So you build networks between these points, throughout the globe, throughout the country, where these applications reside, where these solutions reside, where these data centers reside. You build these connections. Maybe you put some intelligence on top of the network, so some routing functionality, stuff like that, some security associated with it. So you could build all these historically fine. So the performance area to address the hybrid cloud has always been able to be solved. The issue was the amount of time it took to get there and the amount of money, right? So if you had unlimited time and money, you could pretty much solve the performance woes of implementing hybrid cloud. But if you don't, then that's where like network as a service providers like Megaport really come into play, right? It's really a game changer from an agility standpoint, where what took months to deploy previously could be done in minutes now. So if you think about this from like a cloud compute organization, right? A cloud compute provider, what they would do in advance is kind of set the foundation. So they're going to, build out the data center, build out this physical security for the data center, the cooling, all of the components needed for a compute environment. Then they're going to place their servers in there. And then on top of that, they're going to layer on a web portal for their customers, productize it, be able to virtually spin up services on demand, right? And so this is how our cloud partners productize their service. And so we do the same as a network service provider with the network. So we build out the network, we connect the important resources and services via API integration with several partners, and we'll make sure we're in the right places like tier point data centers. And once we build out that foundation, then it's just giving the customer, the enterprise organization, the portal or the API capability to interface with our product and spin up services on demand and really address that agility aspect of hybrid cloud that makes it really beneficial. And so what you're looking at as well, which is kind of an interesting thing, a lot of my customers I talk to don't realize this, is there's actually cost benefit for deploying hybrid cloud when you implement this private connectivity model. A lot of the public cloud providers, you think of AWS, Azure, Google, they charge what's called egress data rates on their connectivity through public internet. And these rates go down significantly when you switch to the private connectivity model. So not only do you get to take advantage of the performance benefits, the agility of the network services as, network as a service providers like Megaport, but you also could be some pretty significant cost savings by switching to this type of solution.
Interesting. So you listed a bunch of the benefits. Everyone likes a good story. So are there any like interesting client stories that you can share where where you address some of these issues and then help them solve some of these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say, a good majority of the customers I talk to, we're trying to solve a particular issue. Maybe we're doing disaster recovery as a service, or, we're turning up maybe some sort of new application they're deploying in their enterprise, something like that. One of the organizations, Matt, that I was thinking of as you brought that up was a company. They're a global semiconductor manufacturing company. And they originally came to us with not probably fully understanding the agility we could offer as a network service provider. And so they had originally budgeted about 6 months for this program. And so what we did for them is they have these global private cloud or private data center solutions, and they needed to integrate with two hyperscalers initially, which was AWS and Azure. And what we did is we placed a MegaPort cloud router in between the two public cloud providers so that they can exchange data between those two public cloud providers. And we also set up private connectivity back to their private cloud. And we did all of this in a matter of less than a week. And so they were just blown away by the amount of time that they can implement these solutions. And if you think about that from an organization standpoint, a lot of times they're implementing this platform or this backbone so that they can optimize the operations of their enterprise or a solution offering to their customers. And being able to accelerate that time frame from 6 months to 1 week, what that means for you to be able to leapfrog your competition, right? To be able to really, the speed to market is really impressive. And so this was a good example. They needed the scale. Obviously, this was a large company, so they needed to be able to scale up and scale down the bandwidth as needs changed. And they also had they wanted to set up a solution where they could quickly add public clouds in the future. So one of the organizations they're looking at is Google Cloud for an addition in the future. So now they have, with the MegaPort Cloud Router, they can turn up a connection to Google Cloud within a couple of minutes. So pretty cool solution.
Yeah, that's pretty quick too. Wow. A lot of the challenges these businesses are facing with connectivity are only going to grow over the next year plus. And as like adoption of public cloud and even private cloud continues to increase, what are some of the trends that we foresee happening like in the next 12 months, aside from what you've already mentioned as far as today's trends?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things, and I don't, it's kind of happening now, but it's definitely kind of a growing thing we're seeing, is the edge compute. So edge compute, meaning our customers are needing those applications to be hosted closer to their customer due to latency requirements or for data sovereignty, right? So they need to, in a local area for a particular purpose, maybe a government requirement. And so edge compute is definitely growing. And so what network service providers like MegaPort are trying to do, and kind of how I explained with building the platform in advance and allowing customers to provision off that platform. Really, one of our goals is to make sure we're ahead of the market, so we know where those edge compute locations are going to be spun up, where the application providers are going to be developing their next generation application. And so to that end, what we're looking to do is obviously expand out, meaning geographically, making sure we're at the right places at the right time, and then also expand up. And like you said, these needs are growing, and so is bandwidth requirements. So, gone are the days of the simple, 1 gig connections. We need to have a backbone that is capable of expanding up beyond the current capabilities. And so, at the same time, today, like you said, 12 months from now, we got to be ready for that capacity as those needs continue to grow. I know one of the trends I was thinking of was autonomous vehicles, right? So that's growing. A lot of companies are investing money into autonomous vehicles, and all that data those vehicles collect and report back, the telemetry data, all kinds of data that comes back, right? So a lot of companies are using these IoT capabilities, and so that's just growing the bandwidth requirements of the network. So the backbone, like a Megaport backbone, is we're constantly looking at expanding up and expanding out to meet those geographic needs. And kind of another kind of cool thing that we're looking to do, I'm sure other providers are as well, is we're in a unique position where we sit between the customer and these applications or these next generation services and our customer, right? And because we are in this unique position, we get access to understanding data flows across the network. And so one of the things we're looking at is how do we apply forecasting algorithms for organizations that are, maybe seasonal, or maybe they're adopting a new application and that adoption rate is accelerating. And so how do we apply these forecasting algorithms and putting in some sort of useful data for our customers to say, hey, in 2 weeks from now or in 6 weeks from now, this particular connection is probably going to be overutilized. And so giving them some actionable material or information where they can just upgrade or adjust those connections on the fly rather than being reactive to those types of issues.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the trends. It sounds like we're in for an interesting next few years as far as the growth and the ways businesses are approaching the connectivity and kind of navigating all of that complexity that goes along with hybrid cloud and connectivity. So thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. It was great talking with you.
And then thank you all for tuning in to the latest episode of What's the Point? We look forward to bringing you more interesting conversations like this one in the near future. So see you next time, and thank you.